Welcome to the ScrapHappier Podcast, where we share quick tips, tricks, and techniques to help you create scrapbooks you love and be happier while doing it. I'm your host, Alice Boll. Welcome to this episode. I'm so glad that you could join us for episode 76 of the ScrapHappier Podcast. I have one of my friends on with me today. Melissa Shanhun is the owner of Digital Scrapbooking HQ.com, and she has been helping people dive into the world of digital scrapbooking for many years. Maybe she can tell us more about that, but I'm so happy to have you as my guest, Melissa. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, hi. Thanks so much for having me, Alice. It's great to be here.
So you have been teaching scrapbookers about digital scrapbooking for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into digital scrapbooking yourself and how that became something that now you do as a business?
Yeah, for sure. So Digital Scrapbooking HQ has been around for about 13 years now. It's amazing to think it's been that long. But the story of how I got into digital scrapbooking is a good one. I was introduced to scrapbooking, like a lot of people, through the old Creative Memories party. And I was quite young at the time, and I did one scrapbook for my 21st birthday. And then I ended up a few years later living in a regional town, Kalgoorlie, which is 800 kilometres from Perth in the middle of, well, not quite desert, but almost. And the scrapbook supplies out there were just so expensive. Like, you already had to pay extra to get it shipped to Australia, and then you had to get it shipped to Kalgoorlie. And I just started looking around. I was borrowing magazines from the libraries, and I came across people talking about digital scrapbooking. I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I have a background in graphic design. Maybe I could do this on the computer. And it was so great. I used different programs than what I'd been using for graphic design, but the principles were the same. And I just fell in love. It was much better for my budget at that time.
Well, and there are a lot of massive advantages to digital scrapbooking, which I think we'll get into as we keep chatting. But I think that starting off that many years ago as a digital, like, you must have seen so many changes in how far the progression of the supplies, even the storage, the things that you can get for making the stuff and the software, like, all of the pieces have come so far. So, like, does that kind of progression kind of make you more excited to keep at it because there's always something a little bit new? Like, I'm like that with the paper side of things. There's always something new for me to learn. So I could see that.
Yeah, there's certainly lots of changes. One big thing that's happened is that software has actually become more affordable. I know that a lot of things are getting more expensive these days, but Photoshop Elements, which is the program I use, is still around $100 US. And then there's other software. Back in the day when I was at uni in Australia, Photoshop used to cost around $3,000 and you paid it as a one-off fee. And now if you subscribe to Photoshop Creative Cloud, it's, well, for the US, I think it's around $10 a month. In Australia here, it's like $30, $40 a month, depending. So actually, it's getting more affordable, which is great. And of course, yes, the features have greatly increased in Photoshop Elements. There's lots of things that help you do things that used to be really tedious and time consuming. Like, if you imagine cutting out something from a background, that used to take ages. Now you've just got a subject select tool that you just click and drag in a square over the thing you want to extract. And just like that, Photoshop separates it from the background for you. That used to take me, 30 minutes.
And I think that just knowing how much easier those tools can be to use, like in lots of ways, there's a lot of complicated stuff, right? There's a lot of buttons to learn. So there is a little bit of a learning curve when you first get started. But once you kind of see and you start using the tools, then the capabilities of you making something that's really cool and impressive, and it makes the process of scrapbooking your photos and your stories that much easier and look really beautiful. It's a big advantage for the digi scrapbooking.
Yeah, it sure is. And as computers and laptops have got more powerful, everything's a lot quicker. I used to, you obviously want to save your work a lot because you don't want to lose anything you've done. But I remember back in the day, like 13 years ago, I was like, oh, if I save this with like 15 photos on the page and 6 flowers and 3 different background papers, it's going to take a little while, and now it's instant as technology has moved on. So it gets there's a lot of things have changed in a positive way.
Well, and I think that's such a good thing. So if anyone is looking at starting digital scrapbooking, one of the things that you specialize in is helping people learn right from the basics of that. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about what you offer and what you do in there to kind of really get somebody started and get their feet wet with learning some of these skills?
Yeah, so at Digital Scrapbooking HQ, we have thousands of blog posts, hundreds of YouTube videos. But one thing I love to do is start with the really basics. So I've got a great series that I did, I think it was last year, just about getting started digital scrapbooking. So I show you some basic things like how to print photos from your phone if you don't want to touch the actual digital scrapbooking, just getting them into paper form. And then I show you how to use like the Project Life app, which is a really great, simple, just pop your photos in, pop some journaling cards in, like your equivalent of pocket scrapbooking. And then I have a free video that shows you how you can create a basic scrapbook page. And then if you like the look of that, I have a class called Get Started Digital Scrapbooking, which it gives you everything you need. It gives you the digital supplies, thanks to Merriam Pink Reptile Designs. And then it shows you the step-by-step how to download supplies, how to unzip them, how to create the scrapbook page, and some basic tips like how do you make a title that looks like it's made out of stickers, and how do you get your text to sit on the lines for journaling, and all those kind of things that if you're wanting to achieve a look similar to paper scrapbooking, that Get Started Digital Scrapbooking class will show you how to do that. And the great thing about it is I don't just show you how to do one page, I actually show you some different looks that you can get with the same supplies. So, and of course you can use a trial version of Photoshop Elements to do that. So you don't need to invest in the software. You can give it a go and see see how you like it.
It's really great. Like you were talking about using a lot of different ways, like from printing your photos straight from your phone to using like the Project Life app to going right into Photoshop Elements. And so you actually have a lot of knowledge in lots of different technologies as well, so that you can help people kind of where they're at and find the right path that might be best for them.
Yeah, and I offer quite a few things at Digital Scrapbooking. And one thing I do as well is just help people organize their digital photos, because that is a big thing that people struggle with, because the quantity of photos we're taking is just overwhelming. We have lots of different devices and all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I'm laughing right now because we just were together with family and we were comparing how many photos each of us had on our phone. And my confession was 60,000. I have 60,000 photos on my phone. Now, I will tell you, they are backed up. So I do have that. But
that is great.
It's still so many, right? And we look at how many photos we have, and, you know, there's no way we're going to scrapbook all of those photos. So can you give someone that's listening to this that has a ton of photos, maybe not 60,000 on their phone, like where do you start? Like, how do you even get somebody to be like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything backed up. I've got all these photos. I want to do something with my memories. Like, where would you even take that person to kind of get them started?
Yeah, so one thing I do have is I've got a PDF which you can download. It just helps you find your photos. You can literally print it off and it'll say, check your SD cards from that DSLR that you haven't picked up for 10 years. Your point and shoot, your daughter's iPad, like we've got it all there. And then my strategy is, as in the photo organizing, is just get it all in one spot. So that's what I usually recommend. We grab a huge external hard drive, we put everything in there. It doesn't have to be organized. It just goes on the hard drive. We get you set up with backup. And then you don't, like, contrary to popular belief, you don't actually have to have your photos organized to digital scrapbook. We've got software that can find the photos you need. You don't have to have it all perfect. So we just get all the stuff in one spot, we back it up, and then we worry about organizing. Because a lot of people think that they have to be more organized than they actually do. The main thing is just having your photos in at least 2 spots. So that's the minimum. I would like, you know, I do triple backups, but say on your phone and then on your external hard drive and then a backup, which means it's an additional copy, not taking your photos off your phone and then putting them onto one hard drive, because then, you know, if you delete them off your phone because you run out of space, you've only got one copy. So you need to have at least 2 copies of everything just to be safe, because, you know, we wouldn't want you to lose any of those precious memories.
Well, and I think that's most of us have had to face that at some point with all of this new technology. Either we've left some things behind in old technology as we've moved forward, we forgot to carry things forward with us, or like my son on his trip to Japan, he lost his phone on the very last day to the he sacrificed it to the gods of the ocean. So he lost his phone last day of his trip. And so he had nothing because of course he wasn't backed up. Like, so
because he didn't want to use international data roaming charges or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And so I think that it's a hard lesson to learn, and the fact that someone like you is there to kind of just hold us by the hand and say it's not as scary as you think it is. And I think that you have such a good, calm demeanor that say, hey, this is approachable. Let's just make this easy. I'll show you what to do. I just love that about you with all of your approach to scrapbooking and photos. So once people had their photos together, you said that you have this class, Get Started Digital Scrapbooking, and that gets you that information on how to get started. Do you show people like right from the basics, like here's the software, get the software, set it up like this and everything?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I literally show you when you start the software, which button do you click on? How do you open a file? How do you create a document that's going to look good when you print it? Because a lot of digital scrapbookers, we're digital in the way we create the page, but then we want the printed layout, either as a photo book to put on our wall. We can share them digitally, and maybe you have like a big screen TV and you want to put it on there, or you've got a skylight frame or something. But 90% of people want to have it in their hands so they can share it with family and friends. So I teach you right from the start how to set everything up so that when you send it to Forever to get printed as a photo book, it looks perfect.
And the fact that you are able to walk someone through all of those steps right from the very beginning means that, you know, when they're ready for something more advanced with you, you know that they know all of those basics that you've already taught them too.
Yeah, that's right. You're set up for success. And the great thing about digital scrapbooking is you can always go back and edit. So I just printed a birthday book for my son. I have each of his birthday celebrations from well, from 1 to 12. And I went back to his second birthday and was like, oh, which I did 10 years ago. Oh, something's not quite right here. And I could actually go in and edit that file, correct some typos. Of course, my son found more typos after we printed the book, which always happens. But yeah, it's great. And if I say, for example, 10 years ago, I might not have known how to do something. I might have wanted to extract a photo of his favorite teddy bear or something. And I didn't want to spend half an hour on it. And now it takes one drag and drop in Photoshop Elements 2025. I could always do that. And I could add it to the page and I can send that off to print. So I've got, pages that I've made over 10 years, all in one spot in a beautiful photo book that he can enjoy. And I can print a second copy when I've fixed the typos for me.
Well, I love that you mentioned the ability to edit and to go back and edit. I've been looking at some older layouts and I even still like some of the designs of the pages, but there are little things that I would definitely correct. Like I wasn't as good of a storyteller then. And now I would tell that story from a totally different perspective or kind of dive into some of the action in the storytelling. And I could make a new page, I can add something to that page, but it's going to feel very contrived because I can't just go in and edit the journaling that's there. And I really wish that I had that ability for some of these pages.
Yes, that is so true. I love that in digital scrapbooking, you can always undo, you can always move things, change things. And if you're like me and you have 4 children, I have been known to just like copy that page, switch out the photos, first day of year 1, new child's face in it, update the journaling, and it's so easy.
Well, and some people might say, oh, that's cheating, but I say that's smart and it provides consistency.
It does. You know what? My mum is like a super, she was a forward thinker. And when I was a kid, we weren't flush for cash. And so we didn't take a lot of photos. But mum did the same thing for us each year. She did a birthday photo, a Christmas photo, and any milestones. So even though I'm the first child, my younger sister, who's the 6th child, has the same thing every year. And it's so cute because there's that meme of, first child, second child, third child, and if you have 4, I mean, that baby's not having a baby book. But yeah, I loved that she kind of took something that you might have been like, oh, I wish I had the money to pay $2 for every photo I take of my kid. And she actually made that consistent for all 6 of us, and that's really lovely. And so I've kind of done the same thing with my digital scrapbooking, although they're not all exactly the same because I have changed. Because I have those shortcuts, I have those time-saving options, I don't have to put it in the too hard basket for my 4th child. I can just say, you know what? I am running a bit short of time because now we have 4 children with 4 different sports they're playing. So I'm going to open that photo from the, graduation or first day of school or Christmas. That's one thing I love to do each year is a photo of the kids with their presents. You know what? I do the same one. I just change the background paper, change the title, and 4 pages are done in just a few minutes.
Well, and then do you make use of things like templates and stuff like that to kind of make that job even a little easier sometimes. I think that it's such a good way to move forward and just say done is better than demanding brand new creativity for every single page.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved Ali Edwards' December Daily, and I I kind of did some projects which were super daily, and then I found Lynette Pinaccio and her Holiday Faves project, and she does like basically your top 10 things of each Christmas season, and she creates templates that are different each year, but they cover kind of the same top 10 things, and then this or that. Do you like hot chocolate or I don't know what else people drink in cold countries because I'm always like Coke for Christmas, like this drink. But so Lynette does these beautiful templates and I just use them every year. And I often add a few different pages because like it's my husband's birthday in December, so I always do an extra page for his birthday. And so it's like a formula that I use. And the templates, for anyone who's not familiar, they've got kind of like, imagine like a grayscale, like a sketch, a digital sketch. And it's got a spot for my photo. It's got a spot for journaling. And it can even have suggested journaling, like, all of those like listening, watching, singing, all of those kind of journaling pages you might have seen people like Ali and others do. Mm-hmm. She's done all that work for you. You just choose your digital kit and you put your papers in, you put your photos in, you type a little bit of journaling, and that's what I do basically every year. So much so that earlier this year, my daughter was like, Mum, where's the Christmas book for 2022 and 2023? And I was like, okay, I really do need to print these. And I finished off probably, I don't know, 10 or so pages that I hadn't quite done. I'd printed off a copy of the pages on my home printer. I'd got them proofread and I got them all finished, and we've got 2 more new photo books about our Christmases, just in time for this year's holidays for me to put them all up on display.
Well, and being able to pull that off quickly is a feat, right? To be able to have that and have that done so quickly because we use the tools we have. Like as a paper scrapbooker, I use sketches from time to time, or I'll look at one of my other pages and I have a few go-to designs that I just find easy to build. And so I'll use those again and again. And you never notice when you look at my books, oh my gosh, I did a page with a similar layout. Well, there's only so many ways to put pictures on a page.
Exactly. And every page has got different photos and different supplies. And I mean, no one's looking that critically at your pages. They're just enjoying the fact that you've taken the time to document these stories. And we're supposed to be having fun. So, if you look at every scrapbook page I create, I can tell you there's probably going to be 4 or more photos. They're probably all going to have a white border, and I'm probably going to use a typewriter font or my own handwriting font. And that's 99% of my pages.
So you actually introduced me to a font where we created one out of your own handwriting years ago. I've used it several times. Is that still something that's out there where people can get their own fonts made?
Yes, you absolutely can. Your font is one I use, but there are quite a few different websites. And basically what you do is you print a template. You put each letter of the alphabet in your own handwriting. You scan that in and they create a font for you. And it is pretty good. I mean, look, if you were making a professional font, they would make it better. So I do suggest don't do cursive writing, do like individual letters because that'll turn out better. Yeah, so I created my font with your fonts probably like 15 years ago when my daughter was born, and I still use it. It's really fun to have your quote unquote handwriting on the page in a digital layout, just like you could on a paper scrapbook.
I've used it when I've done my own pages, but I wanted to type my message because it just wasn't going to fit, and I can't resize the font as easily by hand. Like, I can't say, oh shoot, that doesn't fit into the same piece without having to handwrite it all out. And it was just a really great touch. So that was a really fun one that that you hooked me up with for that time.
Yeah.
With where you are in your own personal scrapbooking, do you stay fairly caught up? Like you mentioned, having some Christmas projects that you had to finish up and do stuff. That seems very natural for a scrapbooker to have a couple of loose threads that we kind of have to like sort out from time to time. But are you able to stay sort of on top of things? You have 4 kids, you're running a business, you have a life outside of the home as well. So how are you able to stay on top of things, or do things get behind as well?
I guess as a business owner in the industry, it can be easy to spend every spare moment working on your business. And I'm like, oh, I really want to update that Find Your Photos PDF because now there's a new cloud software or whatever. So what I do with my personal scrapbooking is, you'll love to hear this, Alice, it's layout a day. That's what helps me keep caught up. So if you notice, almost every February, although not this year because I have actually, thanks to Lucy's peer pressure, I've got caught up. But often I will be finishing up my December album projects in layout a day, or things like say week in the life. I love doing week in the life. I'll usually take the photos and do journaling. And then putting those pages together is a great project for layout a day because I already know what, I've got the journaling and I've got the photos. And often a prompt will remind me of an unfinished project. I love scrapbooking every day to kind of quote unquote catch up or finish projects. And the other thing is I'm not up to date. If you look at my albums, I'm looking at one on my desk right now. I've got a printout of like my 10-year-old's 8th birthday. So I haven't printed that. I've made the page. I couldn't tell you if I've actually done her 10th birthday page or not. I'd have to go look. But what I do is I tend to keep in progress folders. So I keep a folder for each of my children, and I just add every birthday layout I do there, or if it's something specific to them, I'll keep adding, and then I will go back at some point and say, okay, have I missed any birthdays? Because they really love to have their birthdays recorded, even though for us scrapbookers it may not be the most fun thing to scrapbook. Sometimes
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. It is not. I'm like, I don't need to ever do another birthday. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. Yes. And but they really do love having their birthdays done. So that's one thing I'll do. So I use the international date format. I'm a bit of a geek in that way. So I do 2004, 09 for September, 28 or whatever. So all of my files are in order. So then it's easy for me to glance down and see, I missed their birthday in 2023. I'll just quickly do that. And when I quote unquote catch up is usually when I'm ready to print a photo book. So I print a December photo book each year, and I print birthday albums for my children when they're, 12, 13, something like that. So I'm not really caught up, but I don't have a lot of expectations for my scrapbooking. So I've got some holidays that I've scrapbooked and some I haven't. And I do have a list of layouts I'd like to do, but I guess because I came to scrapbooking kind of in that time where Stacey Julian had already talked about not scrapbooking chronologically. When I was a new scrapbooker, I never came in with I was already in digital photo era. So I never started digital scrapbooking, paper scrapbooking with you get your roll of photos and you just scrapbook those. So I maybe have that advantage that I never had that expectation that I have to do everything in order. I've always been all over the place.
Well, and I think that there's a big advantage to kind of knowing what works best for us, right? Some people really want that chronological approach to things, but I know the expectation that I felt during that time was just that I was failing all over the place and that I wasn't doing it right. I was having a ton of fun with the scrapbooking that I was doing, but I might have been scrapbooking something from 5 years ago, something from the day before, something from 3 weeks ago, and it was just all over the place. And I was able to make fun and creative pages. And so once I found her library of memories kind of system, and she talked about creating albums that told stories more so, that really took a lot of pressure off of me because it let me have all the fun of scrapbooking without a bunch of that pressure to make sure that I had told all the stories in order and I had them all checkmarked. I think that your approach is very much of I'll tell what I can tell when I can tell it, and some stuff won't get done. And I think that's very real. Like, I have 60,000 photos on my phone. I'm not going to scrapbook them all. I wouldn't want to.
And I think that's one thing about being digital as well. Well, I do print some and put them in page protectors, but you can always fill in the gaps. You're never like, oh, I have to finish 2007 and that's the end of it. You can always come back and reprint things and slot them into a missing spot. And that's the beauty of, like the D-ring albums and things that we have now. You don't have to do it all in order.
Yeah, I am so over the post-bound albums from back then. No more rearranging pages really difficultly. D-ring albums. Well, and I think that anything that allows us to dive into our scrapbooking so that we're taking those memories and adding our stories, adding a little bit of that creativity that comes with the decoration of the pages and the pretty papers and elements that we're adding, like the embellishments, is really good. If someone wanted to get started with digital scrapbooking and they came to your site, what would you suggest that they start with?
Well, if they came to my site, I think they should start with the 5 things you need to know before you get started digital scrapbooking. And then it just talks about things like getting photos off your phone, what software is out there, and supplies and things, all the building blocks that make up a digital scrapbook page. So that's right there on the homepage. Click on it, enter your email, you get a PDF. And then if you're really keen to get started, I have put a little coupon code in for our Scrap Happy family, our listeners. So with the coupon code Scrap Happy, you can save $10 off any class in the classes tab if you're interested in learning more. Because I think taking a look at a class, even if you are just like taking the class and not actually doing anything, you'll get to see what it's about in greater depth than I can provide in like a free YouTube video or something. And you can say, oh yeah, that would be fun. And then you can grab the software and then you can rewatch the class and then you can play around a bit. So that's what I'd say. And just what I said earlier, I think is you don't feel like you need to organize every photo you've ever had before you start scrapbooking. I mean, it's the same with paper scrapbooking, right? You can just start with a cute photo you took today or last week or anything. Just actually taking the first steps, that will actually help you to feel less overwhelmed, like making your first page without having to have every photo filed in order and off every device. You can start with where you're at.
Well, and I think that really addresses that problem of perfectionism that sometimes people get stuck in. It's like, I don't have all of the things done and ready, so I can't possibly do this next thing. And sometimes we just have to dive in where we are in order to get started. And then we find out sometimes that we might have been overthinking that and doing the approach all wrong because we didn't actually know what we really needed until we were doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that too.
Yeah. And I love to tell people with photo organizing, like actually, it's going to be much faster and easier to organize your photos today than it was 10 years ago because hard drive space is cheaper. Software is better. You know, you can get someone like me to remote into your computer and organize everything for you, automatically deduplicate everything. We couldn't do that 10 years ago. So like never feel like with technology you're behind because probably the thing you tried to do 5 years ago is now even easier, faster and cheaper than it was. So, you know, don't feel like it's too late.
I'm sure I'm not the only person who heard you say that and be like, what? She can just do this for me?
I sure can.
Right.
Yes. I'll send you a link to that, Alice, if anyone's interested in getting me to actually organize your photos for you.
Yeah, perfect. I'll add that to the show notes. I think the fact that you can offer that as a service is amazing. And like for some people that might struggle with the technology and they just need this piece dealt with, or they need somebody that really can show them, like the fact that you're able to do that is amazing. So Melissa, when people are ready right now, they should head over to digitalscrapbookinghq.com, sign up for that free PDF, get the 5 things, and then check out the classes on your classes page. I know that I'm excited to look at your Get Started Digital Scrapbooking class. I think that it would be the perfect starting point for me to dive into this digital scrapbooking journey. I have dabbled. Let's just say I have dabbled a little bit here and there, but I think that there was always some kind of sticking point. I've always liked the paper side of things so much, but I think that digital offers some creative techniques that just do not exist in the paper realm, things that you just cannot do. Some of those faded blends into the background where you make your whole background of your paper just fade into like a cloud or something like that. I love those techniques. And I'm like, how can I recreate this in paper? Not very easily. Got it. But I love that it can make things faster. Your photos are resized with the click of a button to the right size. You just zoom it in and it's cropped. You just click on your embellishment and you move it over here. Oh, you want another one of those embellishments? You're not limited. You have another one of those embellishments. So there's a lot of really good upsides to that.
Yeah, there's all those great advantages to digital scrapbooking, but you never have to stop paper scrapbooking. You can do both.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the world where people blend a little bit of both, like they're doing the crossover pages, what do you call it? Hybrid pages, thank you, where it's a little bit of paper and a little bit of digi mixed together. Like that has such fun opportunities just at my fingertips. It's really fun to see that. Can I get you to share one of your best tips for somebody that wants to dive in, or maybe they've dabbled with digital scrapbooking, but they're not like actively making pages as much as they would like to? A tip for somebody to dive into their digi scrapping?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I would say to someone who's wanting to try digital scrapbooking, just give it a go with no expectation. So grab any photo, grab a freebie. Maybe you've downloaded something before. Maybe you've even bought classes before. Go in, take those classes, follow along, and just say to yourself, hey, this is an experiment page. It doesn't have to be printed. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just give it a go. because the best way to learn is to actually play around with the tools.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get a free trial of Photoshop Elements 2025 from Adobe, and you can just play around. That's my biggest encouragement. And you know what? If you get stuck, contact me, send me a message. I'll help you.
She's a real person. She's
Yes.
a real person that can actually help, right? Sometimes it feels like we're struggling all by ourselves out there with this technology, and you're literally an email away or a quick message away, and you can have a real person that can answer that question, and that can just get you past that one little hurdle you had, and then unlocks all these other doors for you. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I'm always here to help. But seriously, email me. I'll put my email in the show notes.
This is what happens when we have friends on the show, right? That's really great. Is there anything that I should have asked you about, but maybe I don't even know enough about digital scrapbooking and you would just love to share this? This is like your soapbox moment that I didn't even know to ask you about. Is there something?
Look, I think that there's one thing I will say to people. Every year, Adobe brings out a new version of Photoshop Elements, and they've just released Photoshop Elements 2025, which has got some great new features. But guess what? If you've got any software on your computer right now, you can start with that. You don't have to upgrade to the latest and greatest version. In fact, if your computer's a bit old, it may pay you to stay on the older version. But you can actually start with the software you have right now. And anything that you want to do with digital scrapbooking, you can probably do in an older software. And if that's Photoshop Elements, you've got me to help you out. If it's Paint Shop Pro, we've got Carol, who was on the show. If it's Artisan, we've got Karen, who can help you. Whatever software you've got on your computer, just give it a go. Try. Basically, the same as my last tip. You can get started with what you have. And then when you start bumping into things like, oh, I want to do this, I don't know how, that's when you jump on my YouTube channel, you search it. I've probably got a tutorial. If I don't, email me. And you don't have to have the latest and greatest to actually create beautiful pages. Like I was saying, I printed my son's first birthday scrapbook pages that I probably made in Photoshop Elements 13. Well, guess what? If you've got Photoshop Elements 13 on your computer, give it a go. You can create a digital scrapbook page.
I think that that's super good advice. And I think that that will make a difference for people that think, oh, well, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I can't do this yet, right? Just knowing that this is actually a lot easier and you just have to go for it. You just have to start. I think that's good advice for lots of things in life sometimes. It's not just with digital scrapbooking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us on episode 76 of the ScrapHappier podcast. It's been a delight chatting with you today.
Thanks so much for having me. I've loved to chat and all things digital. And I hope people give it a go and reach out if you need a hand.
Awesome. We will have all of the links that we've promised in the show notes, and you can find the show notes at scraphappy.org/episode 76. And we will have all of the links there, and maybe I can convince Melissa to share a couple of her scrapbook pages with us so we can see some of the pages that she's created as well. If you're ready to take your digital scrapbooking journey, go and get started with Melissa's Get Started Digital Scrapbooking class and use the code ScrapHappy, one word, for $10 off. You'll find that link on the show notes page as well. Thank you so much to Melissa Shanhun from digitalscrapbookinghq.com for joining us on this episode. Before I go, have you subscribed to the ScrapHappier podcast? If not, it's so easy to do. You can do it right in your podcast player. And also, if you're willing to leave us a rating and review, that would be most excellent. And thank you so much. This is a wrap on our little trio about digital scrapbooking, so we'll have a brand new topic for you next time, and that'll be coming up sooner than you think, so make sure you're subscribed to get notified. Until then, happy scrapping!